A long time ago, when he was just a kid, Anakin Skywalker made a promise to everybody who heard that one day he will come back to Tatooine and free all the slaves. As he progressed in his way to becoming a powerful Jedi, it all took an unexpected turn. Everything went sour and Anakin became Darth Vader. With that, his bidding was not priority anymore. Anakin took a back seat as well as Darth Vader in some sense, because Emperor Palpatine was now ruling the galaxy with an iron fist, and the person doing his bidding was none other than the former slave, Darth Vader, who had now completely erased the identity of Anakin Skywalker. Well, this is a story where Darth Vader is obligated to go back to Tatooine once more, the place where he promised he would cleanse one day and come with justice. Now, not only was he flustered to come back to his former home, but he was dealing with a slave owner himself in Jabba the Hutt. The innocent little boy was not so innocent anymore, and he would have to deal with a situation that he thought he left behind. But as always, Vader will be haunted by his past, and in this episode, it is no different. The Vader and Tatooine bromance starts when he entered in hard negotiations with Jabba the Hutt. They all live to serve the Emperor. Knowing full well the ego of the Empire, Jabba complimented Vader and told him that now he understands why the Emperor sent him. How could he deny his friend Palpatine in such a time of need, when their precious Death Star had been destroyed? But quickly Vader diverted, told him that those are just rebel propaganda and to not talk about it anymore. All he has to do is accept the terms and that's it. Of course, said Jabba, but as Vader was about to leave, he told the Dark Lord of the Sith to not go so soon. When Jabba the Hutt concludes business, he loves to see something die afterwards. With that in mind, they headed for the Dune Sea. The guards were shooting banthas for fun, especially to entertain Jabba, with Salacious Crumb laughing on the side. Vader was so irritated that he told Jabba that if he values his pet, he better shut him up immediately. Jabba laughed. He likes Vader. He was very glad that they had become friends now. You presume too much, said Vader, but Jabba persisted. Even though he is here on the behalf of the Emperor, it doesn't mean that he won't gain from this as well. He serves the Emperor, but the old man doesn't need to know everything Vader is doing to serve him. He went on to ask Vader how the bounty hunters Jabba sent were working for him. These two bounty hunters were Boba Fett and Black Krrsantan. At this point, Vader became a bit irritated. He had asked Jabba that in confidence, and there is no more speaking of this. But the Hutt was having his way. He told him that we are not talking right now. We are just hearing banthas die. You can clearly see that Vader is very patient at this moment. He wasn't his usual angry self. He continued telling Jabba that the bounty hunters have their tasks. One is simple, find Solo, but the other bounty hunter had to find a boy. Jabba knew that he was talking about the boy who destroyed the Death Star. Furthermore, if Kenobi will really help this boy, then that boy might fancy himself as a Jedi. The Jedi are gone, said Vader. To the pleasure of Jabba, that is why they were even better friends now. No more Jedi to hassle him. Kenobi, said Vader, tell me everything you heard about him. In my opinion, another reason why Vader was, let's say, not getting friendly with Jabba, but simply tolerated him, which was friendly enough. Jabba was pleased to tell him everything, but one thing he couldn't believe: how could a simple boy who destroyed the Death Star have come from this empty desert of a planet? Who knew that anyone of note was ever born on Tatooine? However, Jabba had no idea who he was really talking to. The Tatooine native that one day was going to free all slaves and save his mother. Long gone was he. As far as slavery went, Darth Vader harbored much resentment for slavers, such as the Zygarians, if we go back to the Clone Wars era. You see, this was always triggering for Anakin or Vader because he was once a slave. Although as Vader, once the Empire got the ball rolling and Sidious had no problem about anything, he had to acquiesce. In Legends, there is quite a debate about slavery. In one of the comic issues, Darth Vader remembers him as a child talking about coming back to Tatooine and freeing the slaves. This comes to Vader as a surprise when he hears that Sidious is planning to move slaves across to another planet, and that's when the debate starts with Palpatine, who simply ignores the worrisome Darth Vader, telling him that situations change, that things are not so black and white. In canon, though, there are many times that slaves under the Empire were sometimes classified as non-sentient and were just hidden out of the eye of the public, such as the Wookiees. We have seen Imperial officers, most notably Captain Ray Sloan, have their suspicions about robot man factories, but Imperial slave ownership was mostly unknown throughout the galaxy. Vader might have sometimes seen a thing or two about slave trade across the Empire, but if so, it would have been around the Outer Rim and here on Tatooine with Jabba. But by this point, it seems that Vader did not care at all, as rebels and surviving Jedi were his priorities and not slavery. And you know what's the most troubling thing is that we've talked a lot in this video about how Jabba talked with Vader. Vader remembered him kid promising to free the slaves. Now, we've also seen instances in Legends comics where Darth Vader actually finds out that the Empire and Palpatine are involved in the slavery trade, and he gets disheartened. He knows what the Empire is doing is wrong because he once was a slave too. The sad part about this is that in actuality, in canon now, we don't really know his stance on slavery. We don't even see much of the slave trade that the Empire engaged in canon. I mean, there are victims, don't get me wrong. We even see in the Bad Batch that there are children forced to stay for scientific research. And we get hints about the slave trade in criminal organizations too in canon, but I would love to know, what does Vader think and what does he actually do about the slave trade during Imperial times as Darth Vader? Because in Legends, we've seen hints of that. We've even seen him go after evil businessmen who run slave practices. I really doubt that we will get this in live action or anything like that, even animated shows, but in the comics it would be perfect. In canon comics now, it would be a perfect story to see Darth Vader. How would he handle such a situation if he comes by somebody using slaves for his benefit, even perhaps at some point the Empire too? So I'd love to know for you guys too. What do you think Darth Vader would do in this canon version if he ever encountered slave traders?